You're under arrest for stealing 87 apple trees. That's what I heard on my front porch at sunrise, 2 deputies standing square, 2 HOA board members behind them, like backup dancers. And in the middle, Shelby Crane in a camel coat, smiling like she'd already framed the newspaper clipping. The cuffs were cold, the gravel was louder than usual, and I remember thinking a stupid thought. I don't even grow apples. Yeah, that happened. I bought my land outside Dry Creek for the quiet. You know what I mean, 10 acres of high desert, and a little house I framed with my own hands, a place where the stars show up, and the coyotes run their nightly routes. Then the subdivision came. Coyote Bluffs. 30-something matching stucco boxes glued to the ridge bylaws, as thick as a phone book, and Shelby at the top. Like a principal who hasn't laughed since 2003. We met twice before the arrest once, when she suggested I repaint my shutters to match the community palette. And again when she wanted my mailbox moved 3 feet for streetscape harmony. Which was funny, because my driveway is half a mile of dirt and sage. I kept my head down, tended my apricot and cherry trees, tinkered with a rain catchment system, and figured we'd orbit each other forever, like 2 planets that never collide. Then, Paige rolled into my driveway in a faded blue Tacoma with a cracked windshield and a grin that said she was trouble in the best way. She asked smart questions about the irrigation, laughed at my dumb jokes, and somehow we slid from neighbors to porch buddies to something you don't say out loud, because the ridge behind us had eyes. We kept it quiet, not sneaking, just protecting what was good. 3 months later that knock came, the kind you recognize from TV firm, and official, the one that says your day just changed, and I opened the door into someone else's version of me. Grand theft of agricultural property, the tall deputy said, and Shelby added the flourish 87 apple trees from our community orchard, like she was announcing a fundraiser. I laughed, which was not the reaction they expected. 87 full trees, I said, with what my wheelbarrow and a prayer clipboard guy. Sniffed the cuffs clicked, and my apricot leaves did that nervous shimmer they do when the breeze runs a finger through them. At the station, I sat with my palms flat on a metal table and let the anger settle to a simmer, slow and clean. Check my cameras, I told them. Check my truck's mileage. Check the texts in my phone. The deputies did the work to their credit. They watched the porch cams, no vehicles in or out all night. And then there I was in a motel, 2 counties over, time-stamped between 2 vending machines and a bad painting, because Paige and I had decided to spend a weekend where no one said streetscape. By lunch, they uncuffed me and offered coffee, which no coffee doesn't undo handcuffs in front of your house. But I nodded and walked out with my name back in my pocket. Shelby was already gone. Of course she was. The internet did what it does. A local blog, then a bigger one, then the memes. Me as Paul Bunyan, me hauling orchard trees like kettlebells, a movie poster mock-up called The Orchard Job. With no apples, just nerve in big type. I can take a joke, but under the jokes was something hard and ugly. They tried to use the law to make me kneel, because I don't belong to their clubhouse, and that wasn't going to stand. That night, I made 3 calls. First to Paige. She picked up on the first ring and said she didn't know her mother was doing this. I believed her. I told her I wasn't backing down. Second to Harland Brooks, a bulldog of an attorney who used to be a DA and now treats civil court like a cross-examination. And after he listened, he said we'd sue for $4 million. Defamation, false arrest, malicious prosecution, emotional distress, interference with quiet enjoyment. And we'd name both the association and Shelby, personally. Third, to a drone guy. I wanted a clean aerial sweep of my land date burned into the corner, nothing but apricot and cherry, and a whole lot of empty where those apples were supposed to be. I posted that video the next morning with a caption that said, "Find the apples." People shared it because people love a treasure hunt with no treasure. And suddenly the story wasn't just about me, it was about them. The ones living under a rule book with a ruler to match. When Harland filed the complaint, the HOA's story started peeling like a cheap decal. Their licensed arborist didn't exist in any state registry. The listed phone number went to a gym in Nevada, and the map they gave the sheriff wasn't the county parcel map at all. It was a printout with a shaded blob that slid over my boundary like a drunk on a bench. Harland held a press conference on my porch, held up the fake affidavit, held up the real map, froze the drone frame on my south fence line, and set it straight into microphones. No apples, no orchard, no crime. People started knocking on my door to talk about their own little wars. A Marine fined because his flag wasn't in proportion to the pole a teacher cited for a porch swing. That wasn't from an approved vendor list. A kid's pallet playhouse declared non-conforming silhouettes like a villain in a cartoon. And I saw how community standards can morph into managed coercion when no one looks too closely. Then came the twist. I wish wasn't true. Paige sat at my kitchen table with a laptop and slid me a stack of emails she'd saved from her mother messages that started with guilt and ended with threats. "He's using you to hurt me," turned into, "If you stay with him, you're not part of this family," and the one that burned into my head. "We need him gone. If the board keeps the pressure on, he'll cave, and if not, his little girlfriend will." We walked those into the courthouse, and the judge allowed them as new evidence. Shelby showed up on local TV trying to play the victim. Community destabilizer, external agitator, lots of soft words that sounded like pillows hiding a brick. But the wind was changing. Subpoenas flew. We got internal HOA emails with phrases like leveraging compliance friction, and some loss may be necessary to protect the whole, which sounds like a bad philosophy tattoo you regret the next day. The hearing room was packed from day one. Reporters and back neighbors on the sides. A guy in a Free the 87 t-shirt dead center, like he had season tickets. And Shelby walked in with 3 lawyers and a face that didn't blink. Harland didn't do theatrics. He did sequence. Drone video, pause on the date porch cameras, 0 vehicles, county map beside their fantasy map, the fake expert with no license, no number, no pulse. And then, Paige read that one line to the room, steady as a metronome. People like him always cave. The air went cold. The treasurer, a nervous woman named Marla Dent, came up on subpoena and admitted she'd never seen the map before. It went to law enforcement, admitted decisions got made by executive action. And when Harland asked if anyone ever told her to backdate a letter to clean up a timeline, she took off her glasses, stared at them like they were relics, and said yes. Shelby did. The defense tried to wrap it all in good faith and property values. The judge looked at the jury, and I stopped breathing for a second. The verdict landed like a fence post in hard dirt. In Caleb Hart for Coyote Bluffs HOA and Shelby Crane, the court found for the plaintiff. Compensatory damages, $2.6 million. Punitive damages, $1.2 million. A court-appointed monitor to overhaul governance, identify and compensate other residents. The board hurt, and effective immediately. Shelby was barred for 15 years from holding an officer position in any HOA in the state. I didn't pump a fist. I didn't shout. I put my hand on the rail that held me up all day and breathed. And Paige cried in that quiet way people cry when the weight comes off. But the bruise is still there. Winning doesn't rewind. Humiliation. It doesn't uncuff your wrists, but it puts your name back where it belongs, in your own mouth, not as a headline someone else wrote for you. After the monitor stepped in, the HOA sold off a scrubby little parcel they'd called their orchard to help cover the judgments. I bought it quiet and clean, and a week before our wedding, a nursery truck rolled up, and we planted 87 cherry trees in straight rows, not apples. Cherries that sing when the wind moves through. The morning after Paige and I walked the grid with coffee, and I showed her the brass plaque I'd bolted to a post, dedicated to those who know how to lie, but not how to count. We laughed, not revenge laughter, more like relief, like turning a bad joke into something alive. A retired firefighter named Evan got elected to the new board. Bylaws got cut down to something a human can read, and he sent me a Christmas card that said, "Keep doing you." Also, your mailbox slaps, which I framed because that's the neighborhood I can live next to. Do I feel bad for folks who paid dues while Shelby played Queen, who watched fees go up because of a verdict I helped land? Yeah, I think about that. And if you're waiting for me to say it sits perfect, it doesn't. But some tables need to be flipped before anyone can eat right. And sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to take away the chair they're standing on. I still walk the cherry rows at dusk. The waterline ticks. The bark shines like it's been oiled. And I think about that morning with the cuffs and how small the world tried to make me. And then I think about the cameras and Harland and a woman who said, "I'm with you." Even when it got messy, and I remind myself, gather your proof, tell your story. Laugh when the memes get dumb. Plant something where the lie used to be, and when it's your turn to hold the wheel. Steer light, don't become the thing you fought. That's my short version. Now it's your turn. Was I right to push this as far as it went, or did I nuke a town to win a point? Where's the line between community standards and control? What have you seen on your street in your building with your HOA or your boss or your school? Drop your take in the comments. Argue with me if you need to, and if you've ever been written up for a flag, a wind chime, or a chalk hopscotch, yeah. I see you, tell me your story.